Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at NDN TV Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button and be the first to get notifications.
The Niger Delta, first and foremost, became part of the discussion on the future of Nigeria as critical stakeholders. If you recall, there's a name called Ernest Igali. Ernest Igali was the father of journalism in Nigeria, the first indigenous editor of Daily Times when it was established in 1925. And before then, he had been in journalism as far back as that. That's 100 years ago. After that, he became one of the motivators, the protagonist for the formation of the Nigerian youth movement, which was perhaps the first political party that people like Nnamdi Azikiwe and co. belonged to. And Ernest Igali, so he was from Bayelsa, from Brass, and these were the strong political protagonists. We had others like Harold Dababrie, who was from Bonny in Rivers State, and there was Eyo Ita from Ibeno in Akwa Ibom State. So there were very strong Niger Delta people, and others too from the Delta side like Marere, from the Edo side, people like Tony Nauro. In fact, Tony Nauro was the first even to move motion for independence for Nigeria in 1953. He said Nigeria should be independent in 1956, and our friends, our brothers from the north were not too happy because they were not too ready for independence at the time. And we had others like Dennis Osadebe from present Delta North. So it was a conglomeration of our leaders, and there were the Udo Odomas from Akwa Ibom also. But what I'm trying to say, there was a constellation of our own people from almost every part of Niger Delta. Of course, you know the name Margaret Ekpo from Cross River State, who was in the forefront. So our fathers and our mothers were very active in the Nigerian project. They believed in Nigeria. But however, something bothered them. And what bothered them was the fact that our people dominantly live in the Delta. We live in floodplains. We live in marshy ground. We live in places where you can only access a lot of our communities by water. And you will agree with me that it is quite difficult to take development to some areas. In fact, some areas were not as if they were part of Nigeria. There are some parts of Bayelsa State that when we were in River State, you take 5 hours by boat to get there. 5 hours by boat. Even today, there are areas, including some areas in Delta State, the Gbema area, the Baramatu area, the normal boats, unless you have a terribly fast, modern speed boat that will take you like 1.5 hours, 2 hours. There are some areas that will still do for 3-4 hours before you can get there. So our people raised one issue during these negotiations for Nigeria's independence. When I say negotiations, from 1946, when the British came up with what they called the Richards Constitution, they gave Nigerians the opportunity to participate in their government. From the beginning, they did that from Lugard to the Clifford Constitution of 1922, but 1946 was critical because they shared the country into 3 regions. And they put Niger Delta, some in western region, some in eastern region. And then, so as they continued to talk about Nigeria, our people raised one issue. Look, as we're talking about this country, remember that some of us are from a terribly difficult terrain. We are backward, we are underdeveloped, it's almost impossible to develop our areas. So give us a special status to develop our areas. Mind you, this is pre-oil. The Niger Delta problem, sometimes people equate it to problems related with oil and gas. But even before oil and gas, it was the environment. We raised a red flag as independence negotiations were going on. Our fathers said, hey, treat us differently. To build a road in Delta State, in the creeks, if the road costs, for example, 1 million, 100 million naira in Abuja, or maybe in Enugu or in Abeokuta, it will cost in that place in Delta State about 300 to 400 million. Because first you have to treat the water. You have to treat the water. Let the water be able to carry. You can't build a house on water. So you have to do that, transporting even the materials alone to the location. So people say, look, we're too backward. This was in 1957 in the Constitutional Conference in London. Because after 1946, then that was the Arthur Richard Constitution, 1951, McPherson Constitution, 1954, Littleton Constitution. The British now started to take a lot of the conferences to London. They were going to London. Then there was the 1954, what they called the Littleton Constitution. It was in London. They negotiated it after the McPherson of 1951. So after Littleton, the rest of Constitutional Conference were mostly in London, in a place called Lancaster House. As they held these meetings, our people now came together from Niger Delta and said, treat us specially or we don't want to be part of Nigeria. So the British knew that would now create a problem. And a year before then, 1956, first oil has been struck, commercial quantities in Oloibiri in Bayelsa State. And it was, nobody knew that oil would later come to be so important in the world. But the British said, well, this is part of the territory, so let's create some. So a panel was set up by somebody called Sir Willings, the Willings Commission, Henry Willings. Willings came, did the investigation, and wrote a report and said, oh, these people, their fears are genuine, because we don't teach history. That is why you must forgive me that I have to give a bit of the background. So this is how our fathers raised an issue. Willings came and did thorough investigation and came up and said, oh, there's a genuine fear. And this fear stems from several things. Number one, these people are far flung from the country. They are not part of Nigeria. It's only their leaders who manage to come out of those deep creeks to go to school that are talking for them. They are not like, as if they are not in Nigeria, so we must treat them specially and be able to create a special vehicle to bring development to these people. Then he said also, there are fears, and he said particularly the Ijaws who live in the creeks, who live in the mouth of the ocean, the Gulf of Guinea. And I mind you, I've said that there are places where you travel by boat for 5 hours, not hand canoe, with engine motorized boats, 5 hours to get to. And you just see body of mass of water. I don't know why our fathers chose to go and live in those kind of places, but I guess they just wanted to be left alone and live their lives thousands and thousands of years ago. Number two, they said, but beyond that, there's a genuine fear of minorities being dominated in Nigeria. Minorities of the north, because the thief people, led by Dr. J.S. Taka, also came to talk on their behalf to the Willings Commission. The other minorities from northeast, from northwest, said then the minorities of the eastern region and western region, the Urhobos, the Shekris, the Jos, the Ikwere, the Anang, the Bibio, all these other minorities, that their fears are genuine, that they are dominated by majority tribes. So we must carry the minorities along if Nigeria is to be a country of equity, fairness, and justice. So these were the basic foundational issues. And Willings tried in his best way to address it by saying, create a special development zone for the Niger Delta. So this was incorporated in the 1960 Constitution. In 1961, the Niger Delta Development Board, NDDB, was established in 1961. But later, it became nothing. The Niger Delta people always had various platforms for coming together. And those platforms, the intention was to be able to advance the cause of these people. And each of them come and go, come and go, come and go. Eventually, what we later had under the leadership of Chief Ike Clark, who passed away not too long ago, was the organization called Pan Niger Delta Forum, as the mother body, as the central body of the people of the Niger Delta. And all our leaders from different ethnic nationalities, from different language groups, all came together under him. And we created Pandef. He never held a position. We just conferred to him national leader so that, but he created it, and we started to work towards fighting for our people. And issues of the Niger Delta came to the fore. Mind you, if you cast your mind back about some 10 years ago, we had what we called Niger Delta Crisis, when our young men took up guns, and there was an organization known as Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta. There were so many other splinter, smaller groups, but MEND was the point of concentration, one movement for emancipation of Niger Delta. So later, President Yar'Adua gave an amnesty in 2009, and amnesty to all those who bore arms against the country because of these problems of neglect of the Niger Delta. Because after independence, from 1958, before independence, oil was exported in commercial quantity in 1958. And then in the 1970s, nobody knew that crude oil would become such a useful thing. It became the breadwinner for Nigeria. It became from what Nigeria gets its money from. And for the past years, since after the war, it's crude oil that has continued to sustain the economy, the government revenue of Nigeria every month till now. And the government depends on oil. Oil has become the main source of energy for the country and also for the world. So our main export is oil, and it comes from the Niger Delta. But then we, the people of Niger Delta, receive the bad side of the stick, because oil is very dirty. Even ordinary palm oil is very dirty. Talk less of crude oil. You know, the process of, if you see where they're processing ordinary palm oil, it is sticky, it's dirty. Crude oil is corrosive, it's dangerous, it is inflammable, it is very destructive when it is not in the right place. So if the crude oil activity is taking place here, it burns away everything, burns the earth itself. Talk less of gas flaring, which went on for almost a period of 50 years unstopped at all. So the ground is caked, so nothing can grow. Then noxious gases are released to the atmosphere. All the fish go away, animals die, everything. So the Niger Delta became a scene of environmental disaster. What my friend environmental Nemo Bassi called environmental genocide. So because of the environmental genocide, but then the paradox was that while the genocide was going on, there was no development. Mind you, I've said it's expensive to develop the area. So development did not come. Meanwhile, our money was being taken to develop the rest of the country, including building this beautiful federal capital city that some of us have offices and come and go. And people live, which we're happy for the country. And we're happy that the money is developing the entire country. But the area where this oil is produced did not have anything. This is why the spiral of conflict and crisis continued until amnesty came and brought a succor, brought a level of silence to the country in terms of the conflict situation in the Niger Delta. However, problems still existed. Many. Number one, infrastructure. Or maybe number one is the issue of this pollution. Pollution. There's what is called UNEP report on Ogoni. Ogoni is a small part of the Niger Delta, which United Nations carried out a study and saw that place, the groundwater, is so damaged that you can't take water from underground, even if you put a bowl. The surface, you can't plant anything, it will not grow. Cancer was endemic, and the people were dying. But that is just a microcosm of the entire Niger Delta, and it has gone on for about 55 going to 60, about 60 years. If you consider that oil was first discovered in 1957, 56. and then taken out first in 1958. So we had several issues. But what we took after formation of Pandef, we asked for appointment to see President Buhari to tell him our problems. And we went to what we call 16-point agenda. There were about 26, but we narrowed it down to 16. And those 16 agenda, the environment was number one, critical. Begin to clean up our environment. Number two is the question of participation in the oil industry. Let us also be allowed to participate. Let our children participate. In the management of the oil industry, we're not there. In the leadership of NNPC, we're not there. In the board, we're not there. Even the present board of NNPC, we're not there. We're not there. There's nobody on okay, well, there's one person from Delta North who is a member of the board, but in the executive management, we're not there. And not that we don't have people who are qualified, because oil and gas is from our area. University of Port Harcourt, University of Benin, University of Calabar, were the three universities that have the best departments of petroleum engineering, petrochemical engineering, and other chemical engineering and so on. So we've produced professors and so many qualified professionals, but we're not there. So we put that also. But the other one is that of infrastructure, also ownership of the industry. We don't have oil blocks. They're not given to us. We apply. Even when you meet the conditions, you are not given the possibility to participate. So it has become a cost, and that was an issue that was in the 16-point agenda. Then infrastructural development. If you take all these things and you build our infrastructure well, nobody will complain. We'll still continue. But then the almighty East-West Road has now become a proverbial East-West Road. It has gone on forever and ever. That East-West Road was conceived to connect all the states of this where the oil is produced. That is connecting from Edo State to Delta State, from Delta State coming to Bayelsa State to River State, from River State going to Akwa Ibom, from there to Cross River. The road is neither here nor there. About 20 years, no East-West Road. It has, every year you hear about East-West Road. Now, anytime they talk about East-West Road, some of us don't want to hear again on the TV. We've spoken and spoken. To make that road to be a world-class road is oil production for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks oil production would make East-West Road one of the best roads in the world. Where the money is coming from, it's a death trap, that road. Every government will come, and that road cannot be made. But yet the oil can build a new federal capital. Some African presidents come to Abuja, they don't want to leave. In my younger days, I used to work in foreign affairs, and when presidents of countries come, they assign them, we take care of them. Some of them will say, please, this Hilton Hotel, book for me for stay 3 days. Mr. President, you are booked for 2 days. They say, please now, I want to stay 1 week. Because their countries don't have town like Abuja. So many African presidents, many times, we keep them in this town more than the days they want to stay. They want to rest. Because this is like London to them. Maybe we Nigerians don't appreciate, but Abuja is a pride to our Nigeria. But thank God to the oil from Niger Delta. But one particular road you can't make for us. Till today, I can't go to my village, drive my car there. No, I must go by water. It's only now my governor is trying to make a road by himself with the little money that comes from. So what we are saying is that this infrastructural development is behind. No tertiary institutions beyond Port Harcourt University, Benin, and so on. We said no, build some institutions in the creeks. University of Hawaii, you have to fly with an aeroplane to go to Hawaii. There's a university. There are institutions that could be built. And people are used to water. There are many parts of Nigeria today. They finally built Nigeria Maritime University. And you go there, half of the students are from the north. They're not from Niger Delta. They're happy. They take boats to go. They take barges and ferries to go there at a place called Okrenkoko in Delta State. So what I'm saying is that we demanded for institutions of that nature. We demanded that Oron, the Nigerian Maritime Academy in Oron, should be upgraded. We demanded that the Nigerian, there's a technical college in Bonny, where we have the LNG should be upgraded. Then we asked for other things that are normal issues, like, for example, ensuring that our people have more participation in the federal government. Then we demanded that the oil companies, this is, I think, one of the biggest height of injustice on our people. You take our oil, but you cannot have an office in our state. Go to Bayelsa State. Let Shell or Renaissance show me their office in Bayelsa State. Or show me the office of Ajib in Bayelsa State. Maybe they take one little flat somewhere. They don't even have a signboard. What do? You come with helicopters in the morning, you go to your field, you do your job, take the oil, make it money, and go to other places to enjoy. Go to Lagos, go to Abuja. It's not fair. So we demanded that the oil companies should relocate their. If you don't want to bring your administrative headquarters, bring your operational headquarters to the Niger Delta. Why do you wait until young men take up guns against you? So we asked that to part of the 16-point agenda. So we presented that to let at least the operational offices. And we're still telling these new owners, Oando, Renaissance, Seplat, all of you that have now taken the access from the Europeans, bring your operational offices to the Niger Delta. We are the same Nigerians. We don't eat people. We are not going to harm you. We'll work with you. We'll be happy. Because I went to one of the oil flow stations when there was an incident of kidnapping, when I was secretary to government, to intervene, and they came to serve us some sandwich. And so on, there were some young ladies, and I said, I greeted them in my language. They said, I don't understand. I said, I don't understand too. How come deep in this creek here, you are serving sandwiches? Are you not from that community, the community? They said, no, I'm from Lagos. They brought us from Lagos by helicopter. Every day they will go back. Then I told the people, you see why they are kidnapping your people? There are girls in this village, that village that you can take to Lagos and train. And they'll be serving this meat pie and this coffee, in this sandwich and this coffee, in this flow station, this rig, this platform here. You are bringing young people from other parts of the country. Even the gate man there is from outside. They said that these people from here are not trained. But they can be trained. Take them out and train them. So these were things that, some of the things we demanded, that look, let there be some level of local content. So I think those were the part of 16-point agenda. There were some other things. There was the issue of bombing. They bombed some communities and even took away traditional objects of worship. A place called Baramatu, they took their royal sword, which has been there for centuries. They got from the Portuguese. And it's part of the royal regalia. They took it. They even took the throne of the king. Yeah. So those items have been returned. And so what has been met? Several things have not still been met. East-West Road is still a work in progress. When I listen to Minister of Works, my good friend, Engineer David Umaya, I laugh. East-West Road is work in progress. I hope that under President Tinubu, we break that jinx of East-West Road. And we still take note of the fact that in the top management of the oil industry, we are not there. And they need to. The oil companies are still far away from us. They are not present. They are not present anywhere. Go to all over the world. Ajib, the headquarters is in Milan. It's not in Rome. Go to America. The oil industry is not in Washington. The headquarters, they are in Houston. Go to Netherlands. The headquarters of Shell and all their Shell is well, it's now in the UK. But the headquarters of the operational, the offices, they're in Rotterdam and they're not in The Hague. So I don't know why in Nigeria the scenario is that way. And I think it still needs to be corrected. As those who fought for Nigeria did not know each other. They were independent people from different nationalities. I'm an Egba man, I'm an Ijebu man, Wawa, like that. But people of different what Professor Emmanuel Ayandele, of blessed memory, called atomistic. They were different. You know, everybody was on his own, living together, once in a while, occasional wars and so on. So the persons in the Niger Delta will know mostly their tribes around them and so on. So there was a lot of mutual suspicion. That is why. Why are we even talking about constitutional amendment, patching here, patching there, or chief, one of the most respected men in the world, not just in Nigeria, in the whole world, Chief Emeka Anyoko, can come and say, no, we must have a new constitution. It's because we see that there's a major derogation, there's a fundamental departure from what our fathers agreed. Our fathers saw that we were different from each other. Let us try to have this model. So this took them like 10, 15 years to negotiate. Then 15th of January 1966, about 15 military people who were super military council said, we hereby abolish everything that our fathers, their own fathers, had agreed to do. So that constitution of 1960, 61, 63, that was negotiated, not by people with gun around you, but freely by our founding fathers, was pushed aside. And we now have a unitary system. Although we say we are still Federal Republic of Nigeria, effectively we are a unitary system. And that is why every month, all the commissioners of finance will come to Abuja to share money. They say, oh, fuck, this particular month is 1.818 trillion. And then they will share, your own is this, your own is that. They go back and say, we have money, let's go and chop. No, it was not like that. Before, you have to work hard. If Awolowo will tell the cocoa farmers, go and farm, work hard, let's export and make money. They keep the money, they will pay our taxes to the federal government, what we are supposed to pay. That's called fiscal federalism, resource control. The resources are our own, we pay. That's what they agreed in 1954. They also agreed that the form of government should be such that the center is not too strong on the regions. Let me tell Nigerians and ask Nigerians, is it not intriguing that by 1959, Sir Ahmadu Bello, the leader of the North, had a chance to be Prime Minister of Nigeria? But he was not interested. He was interested more in being Premier of where? The North. That is the kind of model they agreed. Sir Ahmadu Bello could have come to Nigeria and be the first Prime Minister of Nigeria. He said, Tafa Bello, you go and take it and be speaking grammar with Awolowo. Let me focus on bringing the North to place. Awolowo himself was not too excited about becoming the Prime Minister of Nigeria. No, he was more focused on the Western region. The person that was, of all of them, that was very much centrist, that was in the federal system, was Chief Nnamdi Azikiwe, and he became the first president of Nigeria. So what I'm trying to say is the type of government was such that the federating parts were more interested in developing their areas and also carrying the country to a place. Today, the center has become so unwieldy, so big, what we call the concurrent list has been narrowed, and the exclusive list, the things that only federal government can do, have become very big. So the incentive for you to work is not there. They became what they, all kinds of decrees, military decrees and laws were put in place that took all the resources of Nigeria that were enhanced of the regions to the center. So the center is one that controls and tells the resources what to do. Police, all the police powers are now in the center. So if today something happens in a place like Ilaro and there's a DPO in one tiny community in Ilaro, that DPO has to take permission from Egbetokum before he can do what he can do. Through his commissioner of police will go to the AIG of this area, AIG will go to the DIG of the zone, DIG will report to Egbetokum before they take decision. That is why we have the state of insecurity. Security is local. Security does not come from the air unless it's an attack on the country that is from an external. Security is local. The thieves that rob our warrior people, the people in the bush affecting our people, if communities own what it takes for them to carry out activity, they will do it. Governors are said to be chief security officer, but no governor cannot tell even a policeman without a rank to say, go and carry that thing. No, you can't do that. You take command from his ASP or from, so his DPO. The point there is that certain things have happened which were not supposed to happen. Look at the local government structure. How Niger Delta has been shortchanged. There are local states in Nigeria that have as much as 44 local governments. Then there are states like Bayelsa that's 8 local governments. So if they want to share money to local governments, look at the table is big. Bayelsa, you take 8. That state takes 44. From that state, another state has come out that has about 32. Then another state, 28. A big state like Lagos, how many local government does it have? 25 local governments? As massive as Lagos is. How many states does local government does Oyo have? So if you bring it down to Niger Delta, it is an abysmal situation where we don't even have the corresponding level of justice and fairness. In the First Republic, the original constitution, local government was for the regions. You create how many you want, because it is for management of the local population. I'm trying to tell you the things we are bringing up in this review of the Constitution, or the total amendment of the Constitution. Why do some people even question the 1999 Constitution? Because 1999 Constitution is a product from the 1979 Constitution. And now 1979 Constitution was done by General Murtala and Obasanjo. And when they formed people to do it, they say, hey, look, we have pistol in our hands. Don't go there, don't go there. There were what is called no-go areas. 1979 Constitution was now moved upscale to 1999 Constitution, which again was military constitution. General Abdul Salam Abubakar and General Abacha, who passed before him, had pistols in their pockets and say, hey, look, go and write this thing for us. Don't do this, don't do that. And then when Obasanjo now came back as a civilian president, they said, look, this is a document, oh yeah, go and implement it. So what people are clamoring for now, and that is why we have the injustices and the inadequacies in the 1999 Constitution, that people are clamoring that there should be logical and proper amendment or rejigging of the Constitution in the spirit of fairness, equity, and give and take. We know things have changed fundamentally from 1963, the last People's Constitution, to now. So let us see how we can marry them. And that is why many times people recommend the 2014 National Conference, which unfortunately could not be implemented because President Jonathan brought that Constitution towards the tail end of his government at the time of election. There was no National Assembly to implement some of the things he wanted. So for Niger Delta, we have been shortchanged. Our resources have been taken. If it were the original constitution we had, Niger Delta would not be what it is today, where your land is oil wells belonging to other people from other parts of the country, either oil mining license, oil OPLs. So your territory, which is your ancestral land where you bury your grandparents and your religious sites, are somebody's OPL, somebody's OML. But we live with it, and we're ready to live with it as long as there is going to be proper equity and fairness. So these are the things that are being demanded. The government is too unwieldy. The government is too expensive, what we practice now. Some people say, let's go back to a parliamentary system, or let's go back. Look, for me, as a person, and this is what the Pandef position, is that let us have a Nigerian constitution. Let them say the Nigerian system. There's a Swiss system, there's a French system, there's an Israeli system, there's a German system, there's a South African model. Why can't we have a Nigerian model? Now look, truly, who are we as Nigerians? I bring up a constitution that reflects our true identity as Nigerians. And it could be a combination of taking here, taking there, and looking at our own traditional setup and having a constitution that is ours.
Inside the Niger Delta,